Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update on the current situation in Spain, day 228 of the current situation. And today it's all about autonomous communities closing their borders here in the country. 5 have done so already, and more are planning to do so before the weekend, but more about that in just a minute. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. A big thanks to people that supported the channel through a small donation. You can see your name here. Thanks to people that bought merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your support. Now, as I said, it's all about the country slowly shutting down. Different places around the country are deciding to close their borders. We have seen Navarra close, we have seen La Rioja, Asturias is closed, the Basque Country is now closed, and as I said, more are planning to do so. As we can see here, half of Spain is heading towards a perimeter closure before the long weekend. Andalusia, Madrid, Castilla y León, and Castilla-La Mancha are studying the measure to protect themselves from the arrival of travellers. Navarra, La Rioja, Aragon, Asturias, and the Basque Country have already done so. And as we can see here from this headline, perimeter confinement, 5 autonomous communities and Melilla have restricted mobility to stop the coronavirus. And if we have a look at a map of Spain to see exactly where these perimeter confinements are, we can see that they are located in the north of Spain, and that little red dot down there at the bottom, which is the autonomous city of Melilla. So that's the situation in Spain. 5 autonomous communities already shut down, more planning to do so. We can see here that Catalonia is in a critical situation and will have new restrictions on Friday. The Catalan Health Department believes that there is no reason to go backwards in measures, but the other way around. Andalusia is deciding today, Wednesday, whether to adopt the region's perimeter closed and adjust the curfew time. The Junta de Andalucía will assess this Wednesday, October the 28th, the possible measures to adopt in the face of the worsening of the situation derived from the coronavirus pandemic and the new declaration of the state of alarm by the government of Spain, among which are the option to decree a perimeter confinement for Andalusia and or some of its provinces or municipalities, and to adjust the night mobility restriction schedule initially set between 11 and 6 a.m. And finally, we can see here that the Madrid government is meeting today with the 2 Castilles, Castilla-La Mancha and Castilla y León, to study a possible perimeter closure. So various other regions around Spain planning to close down before this weekend because they don't want people coming into their autonomous communities, and they don't want people leaving their autonomous communities going away on holiday and possibly spreading the virus even more. And the Madrid government is being pressured to close its borders by the 2 Castilles, as we saw there, and they said yesterday that either Madrid closes or they will close their borders and not allow people to leave Madrid, because as we know, Madrid is surrounded by those 2 autonomous communities. Now, as we have seen over the last few weeks, the health situation in Spain has slowly been getting worse. We can see here that the ICUs of 8 autonomous communities are on the verge of collapse. The health department asked to implement the restrictions in the face of a real risk of saturation in 3 weeks' time. Now let's have a look at the health situation in Spain by looking at a map of the country and various autonomous communities. We can see here, starting firstly with Spain as a whole, we can see the total amount of cases. We can see the cumulative incidence rate sitting at 436.47. Deaths in the last 7 days, 746, and the hospital pressure around the country, we can see that there are currently 16,696 COVID patients in hospitals, and in the ICUs there are currently 2,292 COVID-related patients. In the Madrid community, we can see the total amount of cases. The cumulative incidence rate sits at 432.68. Deaths in the last 7 days, 159. Hospital pressure, we can see that there are 3,118 COVID patients in hospitals in Madrid at the moment. And in the ICUs, we can see that there are currently 507 patients. And that means that just over 40% of all ICUs are being taken up by COVID patients in Madrid. Aragon here now, which is one of the areas of Spain which has closed its borders. We can see the total amount of cases. We can see the cumulative incidence rate at 872.36. Deaths in the last 7 days at 74. There are currently 775 hospitalized COVID patients in Aragon, and there are currently 88 patients in ICUs, which is 42.11% of all ICU beds. Andalusia, we can see the total amount of cases. The cumulative incidence rate sits just under 400 at 392.42. Deaths in the last 7 days, 124. There are currently 2,277 COVID patients in hospital, and there are currently 291 patients in ICUs in Andalusia because of COVID. And finally, the Canary Islands, we can see the total amount of cases, the cumulative incidence rate 76.07, 12 deaths in the last 7 days, patients currently in hospital because of COVID, 245, and there are 48 patients in ICUs in the Canary Islands, which is 11.51% of ICU beds. And as we know, the Canary Islands is the only autonomous community in Spain that doesn't have a curfew imposed on it at the moment. Now, on the topic of curfews, fair to say that there are a few people around the country that are not happy that their nightlife activity has been restricted. We can see here that the radical independence movement is rebelling against the state of alarm in Catalonia. The Catalan government is demanding more powers to toughen the confinement, while the CUP asks to stop authoritarianism. And in the city of Seville, there have been incidents against the curfew. Several young people have launched flares, rockets, and set up barricades in the Pino Montano neighbourhood in protest of the measures of the state of alarm to stop the second wave of COVID. So Spain never short of a few radical protesters, especially when you give them what they think are reasons to do so. Now we'll shift the conversation to the economy, and the government yesterday came out and announced its budgets for 2021. We can see here that the government has decided to raise corporate tax, wealth tax for large fortunes, and personal income tax for the highest incomes. The second vice president of the country, Pablo Iglesias, explained that the purpose is to guarantee that those who have more contribute more. The government has approved this Tuesday the preliminary draft of the general state budgets for 2021, which includes an increase in personal tax for high incomes, as well as corporate tax and that of wealth tax for large fortunes. As explained this Tuesday by the second vice president of the government and Minister of Social Rights, Pablo Iglesias, at a press conference to present the project, it is about implementing social justice measures in order to guarantee that those who have the most contribute more. So the budget's there for 2021 being announced. Fair to say, straight out of the Socialist Handbook, tax the rich more and give it to the poor. How are they going to spend the money, you ask? Well, you can see here, pensions, debt, unemployment. This is how the largest increase in public spending in history is going to be distributed. The general state budgets will register the largest increase in public spending in history, 456 billion euros. So an interesting point there, the largest increase in public spending in Spain's history, and we saw how they're planning to distribute it. However, some of the press outlets are a little bit skeptical that it's only going to be the rich that put up the cash for this massive public spending. And we can see here that according to one newspaper, large companies and the rich will only concentrate 10% of the government's fiscal blow. The middle class will be the one who supports most of the tax increase and will suffer the direct impact of more than 3.5 billion in tax collection. The government's joint plan for 2021 amounts to 6 billion euros. So there we go. According to some of the press, the middle class are going to get smashed again. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from recent videos. First one here from Ray. Excellent and informative as usual. I live in the UK but love to travel to Spain and was there in March when the initial lockdown happened. So your videos were extremely helpful at that time. And I continue to follow your updates. Thank you and keep up the great work. I can't wait to travel to Spain again, whenever that may be, and depending on Brexit rules. Yeah, Ray, thanks for the comment, and sorry to see that you haven't been able to get back down to Spain this year. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people in that same boat with you, people that obviously had plans to visit the country this year and weren't able to do so, and people that did decide to visit the country this year from other European countries. I'm sure that they were also a little bit anxious about the health situation in the country, which, as we've seen, hasn't been the best over the last 6 months or so. And it doesn't seem to be getting any better, unfortunately. And what's going to happen in 2021, nobody knows. But hopefully it's not a carbon copy of 2020. One here from Matt. Hello, Stuart. Thanks for the informative video delivered in your non-biased style as always. As for the capital and largest city in Spain with a very extensive nightlife, Madrid should take advantage of the curfew and implement it at 10 or 11 p.m. It seems foolhardy to have an extra hour, especially when compared to other cities such as Barcelona, who are being more responsible and closing earlier. Come on, Madrid, stop playing at it and lead by example. Yeah, Matt, thanks for the comment, and I agree wholeheartedly with your words there. I think Madrid should be setting the example here in Spain. We can see that Catalonia has decided to bring that curfew forward 1 hour, but Madrid decided to put it back 1 hour to 12 midnight. And a lot of people confused by that decision, but obviously there is a huge lobby group in Madrid, and it is people that own bars and restaurants, and obviously they are desperate to get clientele in around that 10 p.m. mark, because that's when people in the capital city have dinner, especially at weekends, as we have mentioned in previous videos. It might not be the case in Catalonia, I don't know, but here in Madrid, for example, people normally go out on a Friday and Saturday night at around 10 p.m., 10:30 p.m., and that's why they have decided to push it back 1 hour. But if it was up to me, I'd probably bring it in even earlier than 10 p.m., to be honest. One here from Susan, just a couple of Canadians here who enjoy your naivety, Stuart. Your sense of humour in this trying time is always welcome and appreciated daily. Canadians are also trying to get this second wave under control. Fingers crossed, appreciate your updates. Yeah, Susan, thanks for the comment, and a big shout out to the viewers there in Canada. I know that there are a few Canadians that watch these videos trying to keep up with what's happening in Spain, and as you said, they're trying to get that second wave of the coronavirus under control, which here in Spain at least is proving to be difficult, and in other European countries as well. So I hope that in Canada you're doing better than we are here in Europe at the moment. One here from Spencer. Stuart, really appreciate your ability to draw a line in the sand between reporting on feeling and emotion versus facts on what is going on throughout the country. Thank you, man. Your videos are always an informative watch and a great way to keep up with the ever-changing headlines during this period. Yes, Spencer, thanks for the comment, and glad you appreciate the videos. My objective from the beginning has been only to tell people what's happening in the country. I try not to get personally involved. I try not to get wound up by the comments in the comment section. There's lots of comments there that do get me a little bit wound up, but I try to keep away from them. As I said, the idea of the videos is to let people know what's happening in the country and how it's going to affect them. So for example, what you can and can't do, where you can go to and where you can't go to, because these are things that are changing on a daily basis and people need to keep up with what's going on. And as I said, that's been the objective from the beginning. One here from John. Thank you for this information, as it is so important to me and my wife, who are staying here until New Year. We have already been here for a month, and we were considering in returning sooner due to the curfews. We were in fear of being marooned here if the country went into full lockdown, or if we were not able to travel through regions on our trip home via the Calais tunnel. Your information has helped us to make a decision to stay with our initial plans. Keep up the good work. Yeah, John, thanks for the comment, and good to see that you find the information useful and that you have decided to continue with your plans in the country and not go home earlier. As we've seen, the country hasn't gone into a full lockdown. Various places are closing around the country, but that's only for the long weekends, I think, trying to keep people out. And they might open up again when the holiday period finishes. I think it's just to stop people traveling for these long weekends, as I mentioned before. But again, it's all going to depend on the incidence rate in each particular area. So for example, places like Navarra or Aragon that have quite a high incidence rate at the moment might keep their borders closed, whereas other areas might decide to open them up again. And that's also the same for the curfews. They're going to be in place as long as the incidence rates are high. So once those rates start coming down, so for example to the Canary Island levels, we should see curfews being lifted. But not exactly sure when that's going to happen. And as long as the international borders stay open, the border with France, for example, you shouldn't have a problem to get home. One here from John. Nobody knows what to do, but governments must try something. This is a big experiment to see if it works. If anyone is critical, then they should be encouraged to come up with a better plan. Yeah, John, thanks for the comment. You're right. Nobody knows what to do at the moment. There's lots of ideas, lots of theories. Governments are trying different things. Some of them are successful, some of them are not. We've seen here in Spain, for example, that they haven't really been very successful. We had that hard lockdown at the beginning of the year, got the situation under control. Then, of course, politicians told us that everything was okay, that we should go outside, start spending our money. And then again, now we're heading back to square one, unfortunately. And you're right, there's lots of home experts out there, people that think that they have the panacea for this problem. Should we listen to them? I don't think so. And finally, one here from Erwin. Stuart, you are doing a great job. I admire where you get the energy to keep doing it. As I mentioned before, I can see you doing your 500th video. Yeah, well, thanks for the comment. Hopefully I won't get to number 500. I hope that as much as anybody out there that we can stop this as soon as possible. It's been going now for what, 228 days? That means another 272 videos, I think, in order to get to that number. And I don't know whether the camera that I use here has that many videos left in it. And I don't know if I have enough storage capacity to do 270 more videos, as I have gone through 2 or 3 of these in the last 6 months. So I'm going to have to spend more money on storage and possibly more money on a new camera if I want to get to that magical number of 500. But as I said, I don't want that to happen, and hopefully we can get this situation under control and not get to that number. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.